Okay, once again, my name is Dean Gonzalez. I am the lead trainer with .cms and manager of our .cms Costa Rica offices, where I'm speaking to you from today. What we're going to be covering over the next 3 days is the .cms Content Architect training. If you look on .cms.com under resources and training, this is the live instructor-led training. So there's content contributor, content architect, web developer for front-end developers, server administration, Java developer training. So complete set of instructor-led training. We are going to be doing content architect today, which shows you every .cms feature on the back end, anything that you can access through our UI. It's not necessarily a programming course, although we will touch a little bit on a little bit of velocity to show how containers and templates interact, a little bit maybe on widgets. But this is really not a front-end developer course. It's a webmaster course, which is a prerequisite course for the front-end web developer course, knowing how to use view tools, knowing how to program for the front end, and also for the Java developer course so that you know all the terminology, you know what content types are called and how things are used on the back end. That certainly helps in extending development. In addition, I want to point out before we begin that the in addition to this instructor-led training, you always have for consultation a complete copy of the training that we're doing today under resources and online courses. So under resources and online courses, you can find the previous recording of what we're going to record again today, and we're going to break up into all of its constituent parts. Here's the Content Architect course. This was the last time it was delivered at the very, very beginning of the 5.0 release. We're now in 5.1.1, so we're going to record this session again, and we're going to break it up into its constituent parts. And there's a few new features that actually weren't included in 5.0 that we're going to discuss and talk about and show you how to use. So, and those will be included here, and then these videos will be updated. But this is kind of nice because it breaks down some of the things we're going to talk about today by topic instead of having to watch some, 2 or 3 hour video to try and wait and see where they finally get to the thing that you want to cover. So here it's all broken down by topic, and you can watch them individually at your leisure, or if you have new staff that needs to be trained. Okay. So the agenda for today, we're going to go item by item. I will stop because this is being recorded and because this is a partner training. It is not an individualized training with any particular a client where we have questions off. However, so that we have audio off so that the recordings and the pacing can be nice and clean. However, I will stop in between sections that we're recording, and then I'll answer the questions that you type into the control panel. So there's a lot of people registered for this type of training. So opening up audio full time, that might be quite disruptive. So, okay. All right. I see some comments there already. So, yeah, I just want to, let everyone know you can chat into the questions control panel in your GoToWebinar control panel. And I promise that I will stop every probably 2 or 3 sections, see if there are any questions. And that way that doesn't disrupt either the recording or the pacing to try and finish this session on time. We're scheduled for 3 hours. So I'm going to pick up with session 1. Now, during session 1, we're going to have 3 different sessions over the next 3 days. During session 1, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a back-end overview of what every portlet or every tab is on the back-end UX, and so that you can see what it's for and what we're basically going to be covering. Then I'm going to start covering each of those portlets or views one at a time to show you how to use every one of the tool sets that are there in that UI on our back end so that you are comfortable with every feature and how to use it, right? And this, of course, leads right into then the front-end web developer course that we'll be doing in a few weeks that shows you not only how to use things like content types and containers and templates, but actually how to create new themes and do things in a coding perspective that integrate with these backend features. Right? Okay, so in session one, we're going to talk about file assets and page content types and regular content types. We're going to talk about taxonomies, categorizing content, tagging content. How do you label content so that it can be searched for or removed from the content repository dynamically and shown on pages, not removed, but accessed. Relationships relating to different content types, aggregating data. This has changed for 5.1.1, the latest release, and has become much more powerful. So you can have one-sided relationships. You can search by relationship. You can do all sorts of powerful things that you never could before the 5.1.1 version. The time machine, the site search manager, CMS maintenance, and managing hosts. Then we'll finish out that session today, and tomorrow we'll start up with the basics of templates and containers, form content types, the different ways that you can create forms in .cms, push publishing, workflow schemes, the broken link checker, and internationalization basics and how you install languages. Then on session 3, we'll start off with something that's extremely powerful, but it's pretty broad in scope, permissions. So we'll talk about how you can create new roles and apply them, how they integrate with things like Active Directory, and then we'll move on to URL maps on content types, which will get us set up for the web developer training that will follow this one, and talk about the rules engine and personalization, how you set that up as well for coding, for integrating with those back-end rules. All right, so let's go ahead and pick up today's session with the back-end overview. Okay, I have a local host here, which is installed. .cms downloads with this Quest Financial Starter. It has things like personalization, flyout, and all sorts of examples here on how to do things like geolocation, set of office listings throughout the world with a little bit of search, how to take dynamic content and throw it into charts, how to create a document repository, a video repository, a photo gallery, create a paginated blog, um, an intranet login so that you can log in and then see a completely different backend that is personalized based upon that user's role and access permissions. And then all sorts of demos like RESTful content save form, how to build mobile applications that integrate with .cms, building different areas of your pages that can handle any content type. A one pager that has a ski resort theme, you just hit it, loads up a completely different theme. Content geolocation, so you can look up things by their location on a map. All sorts of examples there. So let's go ahead and log into the backend by doing a /admin. Now that's one way to log in, and that'll bring you to whatever the default portlet has been designated to. Or we could click on About Us, and then I could do a /edit instead of admin. And then whenever we log in on the backend, that should bring us to that About Us page, right? So let me log out again and show you the difference between those two. And if I just did a /admin instead of edit, then it would bring me to whatever is defined as the default portlet. And right now on the starter, that happens to be dashboard. So you can look at Google Analytics on the back end, but that, it could be anything for any of your users. So starting off, just a basic review of what are all these things on the left-hand side, and does every viewer or every user need to see this? And that is, of course, no. A regular content contributor would not necessarily have access to the Google Analytics dashboard. It's just whatever you want them to see. But this Google Analytics dashboard, just going one by one, basically, I'm going to do really high-end overview, is a portlet here that can be integrated with any analytics system that you happen to be using for each of your sites. .cms can, of course, host multiple websites on the same server. We have some clients that are using well over 1,000 hosts on a single .cms server. So on a host by host basis, you can build, in this case, in Google Data Studio. We're integrating with Google Analytics, and whatever we've built in Google Data Studio is automatically being displayed here in this portlet, integrated with data analytics, and then showing all the charts and graphs for the sample host that we have here, right? So that you can view stats by country and all sorts of visitation analytics. Right? This one happens to be integrated with the Google Data Studio and Google Analytics account, but like I said, you can integrate it with whatever other analytics system you wished. And here are workflow tasks. So if I, as an admin user being logged in, I can see workflow tasks that are assigned to me or any other user in the system. I can, take a look at a certain user and see if there's anything assigned to that specific user. I can look at a specific role and see if there's anything assigned to the publisher legal role. There is. I can take a look at workflow schemes and decide in that workflow scheme what is in the legal approval step or the editing step, and then preview everything. However, that is not a typical logged in user. We're not logged in as a typical user. We're logged in as an admin user. But just to show you what a perspective of a content contributor would be, we have a proxy login feature. So right now I'm going to log in as a user called Joe Contributor. So I'm going to search for Joe, find him, and log in. And this way, if you're a webmaster, you don't have to ask any user for any passwords at all. You can just create the user role, create a test user, or log in as them, and then see if everything has been set up properly for them. So on demo.cms.com, this Joe Contributor user only has access to one single folder. And he can't edit the host and change its name. He can't edit the resources folder and change its name, but he can add new child objects, new folders and pages. Images or files can be uploaded. So all these things are given permission to have authority over the child objects in that directory. If we click on the content tab, what type of content can this user manage? Only the contact us form and document content. Whenever he goes to contribute new content, it's quite simply, that one content type, and that's pretty much it. Whenever we look at subfields like host or folder fields, this limited user can only save content to that resources directory. So not only are the search fields affected, but the individual fields within content restrict the user to save only to certain areas. Then the permissions are adopted to those certain areas, and then other users with that same access to that same directory are then, given access, possibly, depending upon how the permissions are set up. So everything is very granularly permissioned, and you can decide what users need to see and what they don't see, and you can test their users by using that proxy login. Moving right along with the backend high-level overview, if we go under Site and Browser, this is a view to the particular host you happen to be on. If we had more than one host configured here, there would be a drop-down here, and we could just simply type and search for that particular host. This gives me a complete view to folders that have show on menu on them, like the About Us page that we were looking at on the front end just a second ago. And then I can double click on one of those pages and start editing that page on the back end, right? So going back to the site browser, I see all aspects of the site, including that resources directory that Joe, that's the only one that he had access to, right? But since I'm a higher level permissioned user, then I can see the complete hierarchical tree and all the objects that are inside of that tree. There is a menu link manager here, so that if you want to create subnav items in a particular area that lead to areas outside the current area you're working in, you can create new menu links activate them and then show them on, somewhere within your site. Not everybody has permissions to those, obviously. So, that's depending upon how you want to do that. A template manager, so you can create new no-code templates or full code templates. We'll get into that in a little bit, but this is where you would create them. Those templates integrate with containers, so you can create containers that help format the content for content publishers. And once you create those containers can be accessed whenever you are building templates using the template designer, which we'll get into later. The time machine. This feature allows you, if you've set up for your content contributors time sensitive content, let's say events that are going to happen in the future, and those events have a particular start date and they have an end date. Well, how would you look at your site in the future and say, okay, on April 30th of 2019, I would like to look at my site in English. How would you see those future events, or that future news article, or that future promotion or product or something, whatever it was, display? Well, using the time machine, you can fully browse the past and the future, and we'll take a look at how to actually do that today, and how to create content that will display and show up as, and publish itself automatically and expire itself automatically, if that's the way you want your content to behave. We have a push publishing queue where you can observe content. Let's just say, .cms has an authoring server, and obviously our .cms.com site, and we author a lot of things locally. We have several different cloud instances where all of our organization can preview all of the content on the authoring server before it ends up getting pushed to the production server. So this publishing queue allows you to observe content and objects that you're trying to push over to a staging server or over to a production server, whatever it is. And then you can observe the complete status history, anything that you've bundled up for push publishing, and observe the entire process and get reports on whether it was successful or not. And, if not, then why. Something didn't successfully reach that endpoint server, right? So that's push publishing queue. Then underneath the content tab, there's a content search manager. So by default, you can kind of search all and search everything for, and you'll notice that I typed the word Johnson and I got a testimonial content type with the title, Kate Johnson. Then I got a document that doesn't have the word Johnson in it anywhere. As a matter of fact, no title of any field has Johnson in it. So how is that coming up? I'll tell you that in a second. Then we also have Tony, which I think his last name must be Johnson. There we go. So it's searching every field on the content. However, that's not the case for this particular document. There's not the word Johnson anywhere here in the fields on the content. So how did it pop up? Well, actually, inside of the PDF here, Global Central Banks, there is the word Johnson mentioned inside the PDF. So what your site search, which I'll show you how to set up site searches, is doing, and our backend search is doing, is it's actually doing full text indexed searches, that it is diving inside of every document and also reading every document and then displaying that document if it happens to exist within the text. Here in the Content Search Manager, you can not only search by all and every field and read every document, but then you can just say, okay, I only want to search generic content. And then I can click Advanced and then see all of the fields that are searchable on the generic content type. Or I could search news. And now, since I do have the advanced, now I can see every single field that's searchable for the news content type, and then search by any one of those fields, right? And so on and so on. If I wanted to go to blog, here are all the author, headline, searchable fields for blogs, right? The event calendar allows you to add events, either single events, recurring events, events that never end, and then look at them in a day view, a week view, a month view, on the back end, and then click on a particular event, view with some filtering on, by tag, you know, and view them so that you can then see, by specific date range or by specific filter, a particular event. And then you can step into those actual events. And then if it's a recurring event, you can say whether it's, you want to edit a single instance or edit all events in the series and change them, right? So we'll get into that in a little bit on how you create calendar events, and you can see them from the back end. The link checker is a broken link checker for all of your content types that happen to have text, larger text fields in them. So you can run that on a nightly basis. You can hook them up to your workflows. So you just click a one click, and before something goes for review or something like that, you can hook up a link checker sub action, and it'll check all the links for broken URLs. We have a marketing section here that has a rules engine. This rules engine can add rules and conditions such as, what if the user happens to be on a current URL, if the user happens to have a device type that is mobile, what do you want to do? You can set visitor personas, you can set request attributes, session attributes, redirections, whatever you wish to do. There's a lot of different features here for conditions and rules, and you can also add your own. So we'll get into the specifics on how you create these rules and how they activate on the front end for personalization of content delivery. Vanity URLs are extremely powerful. You can set up shortened links or shortened campaign links. You can even set up, your pages to deliver dynamically based upon certain paths, and they are true virtual URLs. So whenever you actually hit something, maybe you create a new campaign and it's a certain URL that you've just invented. It doesn't really exist as a page. That actually is linked to a certain URL on the back end that might be really long, or and whenever they hit it, it will keep the vanity URL or the virtual URL. It's trackable, if you have a campaign or an email that you've sent out with that vanity URL. And so you'll be able to observe the effectiveness of those vanity URLs that you've sent out, etc. We have a form builder here so that you can create no-code forms. You just add a new form, and you add it in the same way that you would add any content type, and it automatically creates a no-code form for you. We have a content type manager. This is where you create content types for regular content, widget content, file content, page content, key value pairs, etc., etc. Okay, and we'll get into creating those. We will create some of those today. And then underneath content types are all the different types of things that you would need to manage to be able to set fields up, like a category field or a tagging field. Here's a category manager to manage categories, add more categories, import them from, a CSV file, whatever you wish to do. We'll do some of that today. A tag manager, so that if there's duplicate tags that have been put into the system, or you just want to search and do management, or you want to import a huge list of tags for your users before they begin content contribution, you'd use the tag manager. Workflows. There is a complete workflow manager. This is a real differentiator between .cms and other content management systems, even at the enterprise level, on all of the different things you can do across multiple steps. And a variety of sub actions like that link checker that I went ahead and mentioned before, or sending emails, and then you can click on a send email sub action and do all sorts of really powerful email personalization if you wish here in all these sub actions. So we're going to get into all of the different ways that you can create a workflow step, how you can permission it, how you can decide when that button's going to appear on the right hand side next to the content, and who is able to actually view that button. And we'll show you how to drag and drop these sub actions around and do all these sorts of changes, and also to view any workflow by a particular, I'll just look at Jane Reviewer and document content type and see every step that they can take at any particular level in a workflow scheme. right? So we'll create new workflow schemes and show you how to use those. A language manager, so you can add new languages. If you want to run 30 different languages, 40 different languages. If you want to, in a workflow sub action, you want to have automatic translation to all of those languages the second that you create content in your default language. And then you say, one click, I want to auto translate using machine language translation to all of the languages. We'll show you how to do that. In DevTools here, there is an OSGI plugins manager. So if we wanted to extend the behavior of .cms, we could do it without restarting .cms. We could just upload a new plugin, install some sort of, a HubSpot integration, a Salesforce, or whatever we wanted to do. And we don't even have to restart .cms to deploy it. Then we would go back to our workflow maybe, and then see a new sub action called, send to Salesforce or something like that. We've done a variety of different webinars on things like that. So that's our OSGI plugin manager. Then there's a query tool. There's two different query tools, as a matter of fact. So you can actually test to see how to get content from the content repository. And also kind of, here we've got a content search manager over here. Let's just say I wanted to look at blogs, and I want to look at blogs by publish date, just as an example. And I click show query. It not only gives me the velocity query automatically, but it also gives me this Lucene-like query. And this Lucene-like query, I can then go to DevTools here and the query tool, and I can throw that in and then submit it and then test the queries. And then I can start manipulating those queries manually and deciding if I want to do something much more complex than what the Content Search Manager can do. I can do that on my own, right? Here is also an Elasticsearch query tool. We actually use Elasticsearch for all of our queries, even this one that we made here using the Lucene-like query. And Lucene allows you to Elasticsearch allows you to pass it a Lucene parameter so that it will actually take those Lucene queries and convert them into Elasticsearch query syntax. And if you wanted to look at Elasticsearch query syntax, you could take a look at it here, and we could, grab any of those and we could test those and put those into this little Elasticsearch query tool here as well. And rounding down here, we're almost done with the overview. Here is the Site Search Manager, where we can go ahead and set up a new site search, schedule a new site search, determine what's going to be part of a site search, do multiple site searches. Like if you wanted to, on our .cms.com site, we have a documentation section, we have a code share section, and then we have the main site. So you can set up individual searches for each one of those, like we have in the past. And I'll show you how to do that later on. Under System, we have a user manager where we can create manually new users. Although new users are normally created in something like Active Directory, you'd add a new user there and then just connect them with a .cms user group. And then whenever they went to log in, you'd never have to do anything in .cms. It'd go over to Active Directory, find out that they're connected to an Active Directory group that has something, a prefix for .cms, and then they would automatically have their user created and they would be logged in under the right roles and everything syncs perfectly. And whenever I show you permissions, I'll show you how to add a new role using roles and tools. So whenever you add a new role, you know what to put in as the key so that that will sync to Active Directory or whatever you have to OAuth to, SAML, whatever you want to use for validation, so that the user groups can be synced with the users and the users can be created from whatever validation system you're using. So we'll go over that in day 3 on how to set up new roles and do new permissions. There's also, I'll go over the maintenance portlet that shows you how to flush caches, manage indexes, all sorts of tools for searching and replacing, fixing asset inconsistencies, tailing logs, system info, taking a thread dump, who's logged in to the current server, all sorts of stuff there from the maintenance portlet. And configuration, so configuring things like push publishing environments, looking at your clustered node network, looking at your license and manage licensing, managing your own branding on the back end, and then a site manager for adding sites, copying sites, deciding which things that you want to copy from a specific site. We'll get into all of that. And that's all the basic tools on the back-end overview. Sorry about that. That's all the basic tools. So let me just close that out so that doesn't happen again. All right. So now we are going to step right into file asset and page content types and how they differ from regular content types. So let's go ahead and close this over here and go right here into content types. So if we look at a file content type, this is what a file content type looks like. If we created a new one, it would have a host or folder field, a file asset, a title, maybe some fields for metadata. And these are all the basic fields that are kind of needed to upload a file into the system, right? So it creates those system fields whenever you create a new file content type so that you can do things like, if we come over here to file asset, we can upload a new file asset and just choose something, in our system. All right, this is just a CSV file. So if I uploaded that into the system, I save and publish, then I've got uploaded to my host, this new CSV file here, right? It's in step published because I published it, and then I can see the, contents of my CSV file there, right? So if I wanted to take a look at maybe something which was more like an image, choose something here on my desktop that maybe has an image. All right. All right, well here, let's see this little JPEG I downloaded from LinkedIn of Jason Smith. So I'll save and publish it. And whenever we upload a file, if it is an image type, we get the content type image, we get the file size, the width, the height. To not break any GDPR rules, we've massively toned down on the type of information that we auto glean from a file, although this is configurable. But we could have 30 or 40 more fields here, but as to be compliant with GDPR, out of the box, we make sure that everything that we are uploading would not infringe on any kind of privacy rights or anything like that. But that metadata is there, and that is accessible via Velocity or scripting as well, so that you could actually display file sizes, etc. Okay, so that's file content types. And of course, you could search by all that metadata and everything like that for the file asset. And we also have page content types. So this is a regular page asset content type. So if we wanted to, click and add a new page either to the site browser or here under the Content Search Manager, this is what a page looks like. Right? It's got a title field, it's got a URL, it's got a host or folder where it lives, and it's got a template choice. It's also got some advanced properties like, a friendly name that can be altered, a automatic page cache that's by default set to 15, but you can configure that to be anything you want. It's got rules engine rules that you can apply to it if you wish. Permissions that can be applied to a particular page, and a history of that page and a push history of that page. So, but if this doesn't have enough fields, if you want something else, as a matter of fact, one of our clients bodybuilding.com. Well, if I could type. So bodybuilding.com had a request to have specific page content types, like, for brands or athletes on their site. They wanted to be able to, on a page by page basis, set some social networking links. Easy enough. Because I know you're probably wondering, well, a page is a page, right? Well, actually, no. You could set up a brand new page, or I could go to the page content type, whichever I wished, and I could set up a brand new page content type that would have all of the other base fields. So um, I'll just say new page type. It gives me all of the base fields, but then I could add something like, that's a tab or a row. I just want to grab and drag a text field for, you know, whatever I want to do. A Facebook link or a social network working link, or it could be, JavaScript, or, custom code field, whatever I wanted to do to integrate with some other system, whatever you want, so that every time somebody creates a new page of that page type, and maybe I'll drag this up so it's more prominent, then I could go to whenever I go to, create a new page, then now I'm looking not only at those other fields, but also that new, social networking link whenever I go to create a page inside of .cms, right? So that's page content types. And then there's regular, content types that you can create. All of these are regular content types with the little newspaper looking icon on the left-hand side, the little article. Then these are widget content types we'll get to later, that are a little more complex, where you can create parameters for users to dynamically do something. Form content types, document content types, page content types, which now we can see the new page content type there as well, persona content types, vanity URL, and language variable content types, which we'll all get to a little bit later. But several different types of content types in the system. Right. There is another page content type that has already been set up, so that if you want to combine the idea, whenever you create a new page, you want to combine the idea of the content on the page with the page content type itself. There is a landing page content type. So if we click on Target Quest, where you can actually stick a banner field, that's just a simple, binary image. And you can upload the hero image for the page at the same time that you create the page. That requires you choosing a landing page template that automatically will know that a banner has been chosen, and then include that banner on the page automatically. So if we actually look, it's got this, it's got relationships to testimonials, got relationships to products. There's all sorts of things on this landing page content type that aren't on the other, page content types. Right. So all sorts of things you can do with page content types as well to customize the way that pages operate whenever you go to create a new page on the back end. Let's say if we wanted to add a new page to this About Us section, I could right click New and Page, or Image or File, and then I would be able to choose which file content type or which page content type that I want to use. Now, by default, each folder, let me show you where it is set up so that it suggests to you the type of page that you should create. If I go to edit that folder, it says, what is the default file asset, content type for this folder? Could be file asset, or it could be any other file content types, right? And so I could do new, image or file. Now I can do file asset, or I could choose any of the other file content types. If I add a new file content type, it would appear here, right? Automatically by its base type. If I go to add a new page, Then it also asks me and has the default page content type. By default, it's just page asset. Or I could do landing page or new page type that has that social networking link. And then whenever I create my new page title, really long page title there, I'll just choose any old, 2-column with left nav, and then I put my Facebook link, whatever that is, right? And then I could, here's all my advanced properties for my page content type as well. I can save and publish my page, and now I've got this new page that has that 2 columns with side nav. I click on edit mode. Now I can start editing my page, and anytime I want to go back to my page properties, I can click here, go back, and put in a proper, Facebook book link, or right. Okay, but I don't need this page, so I'm going to go back to the site browser and just showing the site browser and all the different views here. The orange circle under status shows us that there is a draft version of the page or whatever asset. They all have the same status icons. The green checkbox says that there is a published version that also exists of this. Maybe I'm currently working on a draft and that's my orange light status. And then the latest published version, which might be a few days before this new draft one that I'm creating, that also exists. And it happens to be locked by the admin user. That's because I've been opening and closing things without really, finishing anything on them. If I open up this, and this is our, about us with my, landing page layout here. But if I went to save and publish this, right, I go back to my browser, and now that landing page only has a published status version, right? And whenever I right click on a page content type, the options that I have are determined by the workflow that is associated with that page or regular content or file content type, right? Whenever you go to create a new content type, it doesn't matter what it is. It could be a page content type. Whenever you edit it, you decide what workflows that content type is going to obey, right? And it could be more than one, right? And then whenever anyone is editing that page or content or file or whatever it is, that will you individually determine what will show up whenever I right click here and I want to either unpublish or publish or copy or whatever I want to do here, right? So I'll unpublish that, and then I will, after I unpublish it, let me see if I can edit it. Some buttons don't or options don't appear unless you actually open up the content. And I'll show you where to set those settings in a minute. So if I open up this content, okay, so now I'm looking at my page properties, lock for editing. Yeah, I'll just leave it there. I don't know what workflow is set up for this page, but it's not hurting us, so let's just leave it there. Okay, so I want to now go ahead and go to navigation, menu links, and vanity URLs. So I created, I think actually on this new page template right here, I created this side nav, right? What if I've got something that is not in this About Us section, but I still want it here anyway? Let's just say maybe I want to have this application create account. Maybe I've got something on this page, about creating an account. Maybe I'll put a form here later or something like that. So I want this which is in the application directory, to show up on this page, which is in the About Us directory. So how would I do that? Well, I would right-click in the About directory where I want this new link to appear. I would do New and then Menu Link. And maybe I would call it, Create Account. It is an internal link, although you could do external links and then choose whether it's HTTPS, mail to, FTP, whatever it happens to be. Or you can even do a code link and put JavaScript in there and have a modal pop up if they clicked on the local menu link button. But we're just going to do what's most common, which is a regular internal link. So I'm going to browse for that page that I want to be able to be connected, that Create Account page, right? And I would then have to say I want it to show up in menu, and then I did whether it's same window or whether it's new window or parent window whenever they click the button. So I can save and publish. Now I've got this new Create Account menu link here. So if I go back and I open that new page with template that I had created earlier, then I've got my Create Account here. If I go to Edit Mode and I click it, then I've got, my view of my page here and that item in my menu. Now, this menu link does exist outside of my current directory. So if I do click it, then I'm going to that Create Account page. I am leaving, so it will take you over, to somewhere else, right? Okay, so now what I want to do is show you vanity URLs, which that is under our marketing tab. This is another way to kind of control direction, of your links that you send out in an email. So in vanity URLs, this is something like not a sub-nav item that I want to show somewhere, but maybe this is an email campaign or something like that. And to show this not working, let me go ahead and do an incognito window, and let me go to localhost 8080. Right? And that's the front end of the site that I'm here on in the back end. And I want to do, my account. And that should 404 right now. That's somebody's version of a funny 404 page. So I'll move that away for just a second, and I want to create a new vanity URL. And the URL will be, and it'll be regular 200 forward, although you could do a 301 or 302, permanent or temporary redirect. And then you just browse for where you want to forward to. Maybe I'll choose that same application, create account HTML. So this big old long URL is hit just simply by / my account. So I save and publish. And now whenever I come back to the front end and I just hit it again, now that virtual URL, you can still see that it says / my account, right? But it delivers us to a completely different page with a completely different URL, but stays with the virtual URL. So that then I can send out campaigns. I can track virtual links in my campaigns and see how successful they were over regular navigation, because there's no way anybody can naturally navigate to this right now through our navigation. So I can specifically test and get analytics on exactly how successful my own vanity URLs are. You can even use vanity URLs to create dynamic listings and control the dynamic nature of your pages as well. Okay. All right. I am going to now do content types, creating regular content types. So I'm going to create one of those, put one of those in the system, put its own taxonomy, and then I'm going to open up for questions. So if there's any questions so far, or as I'm creating a new content type, we're going to take a pause right after I create a new content type in the system, add a category field, add a tagging field, and take a little pause. I'll answer any questions that you might have, okay? But first, let's go ahead and talk about creating new content types. Let's just say I wanted to create, and I apologize if you've already seen my examples before, but I like movies, so. So if I was going to create imdb.com into the system, and I wanted to, take a look at a movie. Let's do the Godzilla here, King of Monsters. And I wanted to create a page that would handle this type of content, movies, titles, URL title, so I can click on it and it would go to, or if I wanted to create a taxonomy, categories, so I can click on action or adventure or fantasy, and that one word label will deliver me to a new dynamic page that's pulling things like that. I'd have a text area here. I'd have related content that are directors, actors, and stars. So how would we quickly create imdb.com and .cms, at least, a page like this handling a movie content type? Well, this is where I would go to my content types under types and tags. And I'm going to create a regular content type, right? So I just click over here and then I choose which type of content type or which kind of base type that I want to use to create a new content type. So I'm going to add a new regular content type called movies, right? And then I would pick my workflow, and I don't have a specific movies workflow yet, although I could create one. I don't have any specific published date fields or anything like that. Sorry, clicked away there. Movies, and I'm just going to create it. Okay. And I'm also going to open up a little trick here. I want to open up this in another tab so that I can also create categories here. All right, but first, the first thing I would need would be a text field, which would be the title of my movie. So I want a title. I want to be able to search. I want it to show in the drop-down in the list whenever I search on the back end. And maybe I would even make the movie titles unique. We can see how they're putting 2019 as part of the title, so that way the URLs can be unique and the names of every movie can be unique to them, even if on remakes, right? Which makes sense. So actually, I'll put that whole thing in later on this content type. I would also drag a binary and maybe call that poster. And then maybe a text area, right? And I will call this description. And make it required. I don't know about use searchable. And let's just say that I don't like this layout. Maybe I want my movie poster over to the right. So I can add a row. Maybe I want it to be 2 columns. So I can actually drag my title, my description here, put my poster over here, and then I delete that. So you can play around with the layout as you create things. Then maybe I want a category field to show the movie category as well, but I don't have a category. So that's why I right-clicked and I did a new tab here, because I'm going to create a new category in my other tab without actually leaving my content type on the other tab. So I'm going to add one called genre, a new category, right? And I'll click save. And now if I click inside of genre that I just created, I can do a couple of different things. I can keep adding manually one by one, or I can import a CSV list. So that's what I'm going to do right now. And go to my desktop. Oh, I think I might have put that here. Don't laugh at my horrible desktop stuff. I think it's inside of here. Demo. I just keep throwing things from my desktop instead of this. I really need to clean this up. Okay, and here's got my movie genres CSV. And you can either, whenever you import a CSV file, you can replace the current categories that are already here, which that's what I'm going to do. I don't even have any. Or you could add or edit, and which by key, if you had matching key, it would just update the rest of the properties by matching key. Right. So I'm just going to replace that. Adds 26 different new categories. And if you looked at my CSV, it just has name and then a list of names, key, a list of keys, variable, a list of variable names, and sort order, a list of numbers. That's it. Nothing fancy. So I've just imported this category list underneath the genre category. I'll even go to sci-fi and I will import a subset. Here's my sci-fi subset. I'll import that, and then here's a bunch of sci-fi subsets that I once saw on imdb.com under their categories. Right. So now now that I have a category I can use using the category manager, I can now add a new category. Let's say I want it right here, and then I can choose that new category called genre. I don't see any reason to call it anything else. Maybe I'll call it movie genre. Make it user searchable. Required probably. And now I've got that. And let's just go ahead and add Godzilla in here. So then I would go from content types to content, the content search manager, and I would add a new movie. You can see it automatically, based upon whatever you were currently working on as a content type, it'll automatically pre-select that movie's content type. I add new content in the system, and now I can add my Godzilla King of Monsters. I can go ahead and get to my description. I can paste that description in here. Then based upon action, adventure, fantasy categories, I can go ahead and click here. And all you have to do is click on the name of the category, action, adventure. I don't see well, there's fantasy, I guess. But you could search for like sci-fi or something like that. And search, it'll find sci-fi. And then let's just say I wanted to label it sci-fi, and then I wanted to actually dig down under, this is the subset that I imported as well. And then I could apply, whatever subset of sci-fi, right? If this isn't actually, if I made mistakes, I can just click on it here or click on it here and remove those categories as well. Then I'm going to choose my poster. So I'm going to just right click and save image as, just save it right on my desktop, call it Godzilla, and then go back to my poster field, choose my desktop and Godzilla, and upload my poster, right? So now I've got my first piece of content using that brand new content type into the system. Now, let's just say that what if I didn't have here under my category genre everything that a user might want to search for? Maybe I want to add for Godzilla the historical, what country it's from. Maybe I want to put Japan, or maybe I want to put monsters, or I want to put some other tags by which people might search on the front end for this content. And the webmaster didn't think of that whenever they put in movie genres. So then we would add an ad hoc tagging field. So we go back and go to content types, open up movies, and then I would grab the tag field, maybe put that right underneath movie genre, and I'll just call it tags. User searchable, not necessarily required. And then what if also I wanted to relate this movie's content type to actors or actresses? Now, there might be multiple relationships here in a real implementation, but right now I'm just going to go to content types. I'm going to create a new content type called cast, right? And then I'm just going to put first name and last name, and that's the only thing I'm going to do. Sure. And text. Okay, so just got a first name and last name as a cast member, right? Keeping it very, very simple for right now. Then I go back to my content type, my movies content type, and I want to set up a relationship between the movies content type and the cast content type. So I'm going to add a relationships field here. And maybe what I'll do, maybe I'll add another row here, make it a one column, and I'll put I don't know what this is going to look like, but I'll put it there, and I would call cast. Cast members or something like that. And then I'm going to create a new relationship between two content types, and I'm going to select cast that I just added in the system. And we would want to keep this a many-to-many relationship because each cast member can be many movies. Each movie can have many cast members. So definitely not a one-to-many. That would be a big mistake, right? That actor's career would be over real fast. So I want to make it user searchable. Not necessarily required because maybe I'd populate a lot of movies into the system before actors had even been selected. So let's see what this looks like. And now go back to our movies, Godzilla, King of Monsters. So now he's got a cast members relationship underneath here. He's got tags. So I want to put monsters into the system. And I can see I only have Money Market because this was a financial website, right? So monsters, Japan. And now I can add my own ad hoc tags just by putting a comma afterwards, and I can keep going as much as I want. I can lock for editing, save, and publish. And then if I go to add any new movie into the system, if I start typing NON for monsters, then you can see it instantly shows up the next time you go to add a new piece of content or edit another piece of content, as well as Japan. If I just type JAP, here it automatically pipes up the second you start typing the first three letters, right? So that's the tag field. And if I wanted to come over here to the category manager, I can obviously, add permission, go to the properties of any one of those categories. And then if I go to the tag manager, I show my global tags. I can also look and see Japan or MON, monsters. And I can step inside that tag and I could edit or change that tag as well. So the tag manager, category manager. Now, what about those relationships? Well, I go back to my movie content type, and then after we finish the coverage of relationships, I'm going to open it up for questions. So I can either relate a new cast member, which I don't have any cast members at this time, or I could relate an existing one, right? But it doesn't make much sense to relate an existing because I don't have any. So if I look at King of Monsters, Michael Dougherty, and he's writer director, but that's okay. We can consider him a cast member as well. And so now I'm going to relate new. And it says, hey, you should save your current content. If you haven't, then nothing will be saved. That's fine. And put in Michael Dougherty in the system. And I want to save and publish him as a cast member. And then I can just go back to Godzilla, and there he is automatically related, right? Or I could go into the cast members, right? And I'm going to add at least one new cast member. So we're going to do Charles Dance. And you noticed from the cast members, there is no relationship to movies yet, right? There's no relationships field. So relationships are one-sided these days, with the latest .cms release. So now I can refresh here let's go to movies, open up this, and now I've got this one. I can click relate, and then I can filter and search by the related content type, or I could just click the one or more and then relate, and now I've got Charles and Michael both related, right? Now, how can I also do this from the other side? First, I'm going to save and publish that relationship. And then we're going to have questions and a little 10-minute break. Okay. So I already did the relationship here from movies to cast members. Now I'm going to add a relationship here under cast. Add a relationships field. Now this time I'm going to choose an existing relationship, right? And I'll call this movies. Or related movie. And I'll make it user searchable, and I'm going to select the relationship that already exists. That way it's truly two-sided now. And then I'm going to select this automatically generated movies to cast members many-to-many relationship that I already created by creating the other field. Now the two fields are kind of married. So no matter what I relate here will be shown on the other content type, vice versa. So now if I go back to Charles Dance, I can see that related movie, the movie he's related to. Or if I go to Michael Dougherty, I can see them there as well. So then I could add. So let's see someone else. Zach Shields. And I can add. And then relate to an existing movie, right? And then save and publish. Zach Shields. And now whenever I go to my movies and I open up, and then I see Zach Shields here as well. And I can also, whenever I'm pulling by relationship, I can just drag around if I want to, however I want to drag around that field. I can go ahead and drag around those actors and actresses to list in the order that I wish. And I just lock for editing and I save and publish. Okay. All right. That is categorization, tags, and relationships on content types. I can also search and find out which movies that Michael or Zach, or I could have made that a full name field, are actually in. So I can click any of these actors and actresses. All of them are related to Godzilla. So if I I could add others in the system, and then if I go to cast members, I could also search by the related movie, and I can just start typing, GOD, all right, so then nothing shows up. And then if I click, then it'll filter out the actors or actresses as well. Right. Okay, so I'm going to open it up for questions right now. There's a question about controlling menu link reordering, and there should be on like our About Us page the same way that you do the ordering here for so we look here in edit mode on our page. Looks like it looks like the menu controls aren't here. You have to actually add a little bit of code. During our break, I'll go ahead and make sure that our template actually includes that code so that you get your reorder button. It's a little tiny piece of code that's just missing from the starter template, but and then you would add that into your submenu nav as well, and then it exposes the tool so that you can do automatically reordering. During our break, I'll go ahead and install that so we can see the reordering of menus and submenus. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and take a break. I'll pick up with any other questions. I don't see any others typed in right now. See if there's any other questions. Right now it is 15 after the hour for me, so let's come back at 25 after the hour. I'll put up a little note that we will be back at 25 after the hour. And we'll see you in 10. All right, let's get started back up. Before we do, I wanted to just show, here's demo.icms.com. And here we can see our reorder menu here working. I'm not sure what's going on with my local, but if I wanted to reorder something, I could reorder here. And so I just reordered the About Us. Now let's try to add a side nav. So I'm going to go to Layout. And this is the live demo.cms.com. So I'm going to scrunch this one in, and then I'm going to add another container over here and do a subnav. I am zoomed in, so yeah, kind of hard. And I'm going to do sub nav menu over here to the left. And now whenever I go back to my browser, my index page, I see that. And then I did create over here a menu link, right? Here's my menu link, right? Here's my menu link. And now let's make sure that we can actually index. So this is how you reorder your menu links. Not sure what's going on with my new, with my local though, because I'm not even seeing the reorder menu up top. So there must be something in my starter on my local that is not quite right. But I should be able to then reorder that create account link down here. Maybe I'll put locations right above that. Save changes. Okay. My edit mode, my preview mode, and then my live mode. Oh, maybe I didn't. Maybe I gotta go to layout. What? Did I somehow undo my changes? Or I never saved my layout? Thought I had. Or maybe somebody else is changing it. With demo, you just never know. Sub. Save. Go to content. And now I can reorder. Create account. Save changes. Is somebody messing with me? Okay, it looks like somebody's messing around with my layout. Stop that. Here, let me see. Here, let me cancel out of here. Go to system, users. Okay. And I'm going to add a new user to the system. Okay, I just want to see if there's anybody else changing this page or it's me. And the About Us index. Let's go to layout. Okay, so now I'm going to publish these changes to my page. All right, I'm still seeing my side nav. And now if I reorder here, put About Us right there, I click Save. Okay, no problem whatsoever. Now let's see if I reorder here, put About Us there, and I click Save. Okay, yeah, so it must have been somebody else messing with me here, because all I did was change the password for the admin user and log in as myself, and now we're reordering both just fine. My layout's saved, you know, and let's see. Yeah, somebody's been messing around with this, so because that's a lot of changes to this page. So somebody else was doing this page at the same time, so that might change again. So that is how you should be able to out of the box reorder main menus, or that, I'm here on demo. That's the live site, and I'm not sure what I did to my template here on my local, but it's not showing either of the navs. I'll get that fixed tonight. I'll find out what little piece of code is off on the starter code, and I'll get those displaying back again. Let me see what template this is using. Let me just switch it back to maybe Quest 2 column with side nav. Sure, let me try that for right now. Okay. And then if I edit here, yeah, no, that's still not back. So there's something wrong with the starter code itself on the theme that's not showing those buttons. But I'll put it back for before tomorrow's session, and you should be able to control both, just like I did on demo. Okay. So the next section that we are going to go through, unless there are questions, would be the time machine, building a site search. Then I'm going to go right into maintenance and hosts, and we'll be done. So we'll go into the time machine in just a second, but I wanted to ask, is there any other questions about anything that we've covered so far? You can type them into the control panel if you do have any of those questions. Otherwise, we'll start right back up with time machine. Okay. Do not see any other questions in the system, but I'm going to pop that out and observe. Okay, so let's just say for this particular news section, I want to observe my content for this news listing being published in the future. So I want to create a new piece of news, and I want to make it time sensitive, and I don't want it to appear right now. It's April. I'll say I want it in May 1st. For the month of May, I want it to show up, and then I want it to disappear at the end of May. So first, whenever you're creating a new content type, you would have to put a time and date field. So let's just go ahead and sort by news. And I want my news content type. If I wanted my news content type to be time sensitive, then I would have to put a published, a date and time field. So you see this date and time field over here to the right. I would have to drag that on, and I would have to add a field to control the timed publishing of content and or expiration of content. Once you have two time and date fields, at least two if you want to have both publishing and expiration, then you can edit your content type. and then you can choose from as many time and date, date and time fields as you have added to your content type. They will just all display here. So obviously I'm going to select publish for publish and expire for expire, and then becomes time sensitive. And then I'll get to what the detail page and the URL map pattern is later for the content type. And that way I can come over here. Once you do that, then the publish field will control the publishing. If I right now set a future piece of news, so I will add a, I'm going to do bacon Ipsum and generate some bacon. And I'm going to add a new piece of news. So, pork bellies. Okay. So, and geolocate it to okay, I don't know where that is, the Bacon Social House, but that sounds good in Denver, Colorado. Okay. And then I love bacon. And then I'm going to go to May and May 1st. And then I'll expire it. I don't have to expire it. I could just make it continue forever. That way you avoid any pages being blank. But I do want to show the time machine, both publishing and expiring things. So I'm just going to add it. I could have added an exact time, but if you don't, then it'll just be 12 a.m. on both of those publish and expired days. Then I'm going to add my story about bacon. And I could choose my image and blah, 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 and select my categories and all that good stuff. But we don't need to. And if I choose save and publish, it does exactly what it's supposed to be doing. It says the content cannot be published because it is scheduled to be published on a future date. So the only thing that I can do is just click save. Okay, so it stays in a saved draft content. And then if I go to site browser and I go to that news section and I go to news index page, then it should not appear here in my listing currently. So how do I know? How do I know that this is automatically going to appear in May? So that's where you'd use your time machine. So you train your content publishers to go here and look into the future. And so now let's just look at today first. So we see that, there's no, today in English, then I go to news and events and looks just like I just saw just right on the page, right? However, if I set it to May 2nd or any date in May, then I go to, not events, I want to go to news. Then I see pork bellies will, rise in May. So if I go to the 30th, same thing. If I go to June, however, and I select June 6th, then I go to news and it's not there again. So what will really happen here is this piece of content will actually turn to the green light status whenever the timestamp on the server actually reaches the publish date, 12 a.m. on 5/1. So if we looked at this server at 12 a.m. after 12 a.m. on 5/1, this would be published. And then at the end of May, whenever we go into June, then it would go back to unpublished again because of the expire date that is on the content, right? Here after 5:30 at 12 a.m., then it will unpublish itself physically on the server. So that's how you set up the time-sensitive publishing and unpublishing of content in the future. Now, how do you look at the past, like a Wayback Time Machine view of all the pages on the internet? You want to see what Amazon looked like 8 years ago, you can go to the Wayback Time Machine and view it. That's exactly what we're doing in our time machine here as well. So if we go to Time Machine, we can set up the past and hook up a scheduler and go to settings and say, I want to, take this site and, back it up in English at exactly, a certain time and date, you know, every once a day, every day at 1 a.m. or something like that. That's whenever I want to back up my pages. So that's what I can do. I can save that and set it to run. Okay, sorry about that. All right. So then you'd set up that snapshot for snapshotting your site in the past, and then you could just simply go here to the past. You'd click on a time that the backup was done, and then you'd be able to see a static HTML backup. It'll back up the HTML, all the assets, and everything like that, and then you can preview the site statically. So if you had in your snapshot, whenever you're observing it, if you had something that dynamically reacted and then did a pull on the page, that stuff wouldn't work. It is a static HTML, and all your files, get backed up. And where does that Time Machine save? Well, whenever you open up one of the many, many servers, it's very easy to install .cms on a local computer. This is the one I'm running right now, but let's see. I probably have a Time Machine already stored for this one. Let's see, maybe not though. Root. It would be inside the assets directory, and I don't. It would be here with the rest of the Time Machine bundles and the rest of your assets. You'd see a folder here called, I think it's time_machine. If you run the Time Machine, it'll store, it's something like that. There you'll see it right in your assets directory, and you'll see all the static HTML bundles. It'll show a timestamp. You click on the folder, and then you just keep digging into the folder, and then you'll see the HTML files for your complete host that you backed up, right? So that's in your .server. If you happen to be running Tomcat natively, web apps, root, and the assets directory, and then you look at Time Machine, and then it'll be inside of that folder. Okay. So that is backing up a past snapshot of your Time Machine, or looking to the future and looking at a future date and seeing whenever your content will automatically publish. Okay. And that is the Time Machine. Pretty cool, huh? All right, a site search. So if I wanted to, from the front end, I wanted to search for Johnson the way we did on the back end. I want to click search. I want to find something. Well, there's no site search set up yet, so that's not going to work. But let's make it work. Let's go into the back end, and that's where you'd go under Dev Tools and Site Search. Right? So we can set up a new job schedule the same way we would have done for the Time Machine. We're going to run that right now, and we're going to say what site, just like for the Time Machine backup. And we say that we want to, I happen to know that this search box, it could be hooked up to search any index, but it's hooked up to show the default index. And so I'm going to just make a new default index. And then I'm going to back it up in English only, because I don't have really any other languages on the starter, although we'll change that with our new starter. And paths, I want to include everything, although you can include or exclude whatever you want, and it shows you how to do paths for wildcards and everything like that if you want to include and exclude paths. And you can comma separate them and include tons of lists to exclude or tons of lists to include, including wildcards for the rest of the pathing, right? So very, very easy to manage. So I can execute that, and then it will show me all jobs, and then once every 6 seconds, it'll go ahead and update and tell me whenever this is done. Right now it's at 30%, and it just completed. Now, what you can do, I'm going to go ahead and search on the front end in just a second, but you could also set up a brand new index, right? So you can create a site search index. I could call it, documentation, or whatever section of my site that I wanted to set up a separate index. I can set up the number of shards. That's like setting up almost RAID on a server. You go ahead and distribute your index. So I can create a site search index, and then whenever I go to the job scheduler, I can run right now and then search that documentation index, and then I can load all paths that include /documentation / whatever. Right, so you can make it in many named indexes as you want, and then in your velocity for your search, you'd tie that to your, this site search, guy to your documentation index, or however many indexes you had that you want to do search. So it doesn't have to be the default. And then whenever you do that, you can then search those individual indexes, or I'm going to search my default for Johnson on the back end to test it and make sure I'm getting some results. I can see my Global Central Banks PDF. I can see that it's working. So I don't even have to go to my front end to be able to test it. But now if I go to my front end, I can use that same search, Johnson, click search, and now I get that Global Central Banks I got. It even highlights and tells me where inside of the PDF there's the line that includes Hugh Johnson as a name, and then includes all of the other content where Johnson happens to be in on the content name, right? So for faceted searches, complete searches, you can even offload the indexation from Elasticsearch onto multiple different server nodes, distributed indexation, all that good stuff. Okay. So that is the site search index, and one of the most important things. And we'll get to this in just a minute. Now that's the site search index. There's also an indexation tab under system maintenance and indexation. And if I wanted to do a complete reindex, if I wanted to download an index snapshot, deactivate an index, this is the entire content repo, no matter how many hosts I have. And then that's one Elasticsearch index for everything. So that's one index to rule them all. And then under Dev Tools and Site Search, this is just the Site Search index, right? But you can do the same things, download an index, restore an index, all that good stuff. And if you look into our documentation, you can back up both. So I'm just going to search for indexation. And there's a RESTful API to manage indexes, and there's a site search index REST API. So I'm going to open up both of those in a new tab. And this is the site search. The most important thing is you can do these things by curl. So whenever you go to backup, which if you're using Amazon Cloud, hosting with .cms, then we would do something like this for you automatically, where we back up everything, all your indexes for you, so that if anything needed to be brought back, let's just say, Amazon, loses part of their, cloud network. Anything can happen, right? Machines can fail no matter where they are in the cloud or not. So let's just say some part of that system goes down. One of them happened to be where your production server was. Those machines in that system, that network can't be relied upon anymore. So you go to plan B, your other, backups. Well, you need the ability to scripted backup your site search indexes, which you can see here in the path to the curl commands. Here is site search index action, and then your whole index, right? So your complete index. So download an index, you'll see that this uses ES index, different pathing by script. So nightly on backups, we automatically back up for ourselves and for clients the not only the main index with all of the content, but also the site search indexes. That way, if we need to restore something, normally for .cms, all you need to recover is the assets directory and the DB. You download a or the same version of .cms that you were running on whatever system that just dropped. You put your assets directory, you link your context XML to your database dump, and that's it. However, once you start it up that way, you'd have to reindex and you'd have to run your site search indexes again. So to avoid having to wait to do that either and script everything about the recovery, we include these types of commands to back up the site search, the latest site search index, to back up the latest main index, for all of your content repo, and we include those in our backup scripts. And so should you, if you're running .cms, so that your restoration script, the second that your .cms starts back up, it not only has it's linked to all its assets, it's already got the same exact database as your backup, but also your site searches instantly work. Your content all displays upon your pages. So all of the site search actions or the main index management actions can be scripted, is the important takeaway there. Okay, we're going to move into the last two sections, then we'll have some final question time for QA, and then we're going to finish up for today. So what can you do from CMS maintenance? Okay, so we're going to go to System and Maintenance. Okay, so here we've got the .cms cache. .cms tries to, whenever you're hitting things from the back end or hitting things from the front end, tries to cache efficiently until things change. Right? Whenever things change, .cms also tries to flush those caches and automatically reload with the freshest information, unless you've configured it otherwise. There is a .cms page cache that's automatic for 15 seconds, which you could, redo that. But I have caught that whenever I was doing something on a page that was actually pulling content that existed on a completely different server, then I changed that content on a completely different server. I was doing a remote widget. I looked at my page, even though the content was coming from that remote server, I looked at my page and it's still showing me the old content. I'm like, how? The local page doesn't have any content. It's pulling the content by remote widget from the other server. And then I remembered that each of the pages has a page cache. Here's our page cache right here for 15 seconds, right? So if I want you to, if you ever have encountered the same thing, you don't think you're crazy. Oh, you know what? Now on my local host, I am seeing my reorder menus. Okay, so I obviously had a caching issue. Now I'm seeing my reorder locally. Okay. All right, I'm having Voodoo here on my local host. And I'm able to reorder this as well. Okay, great. All right, there you go. Little cache Voodoo locally. Okay, well, this is how you clear out those types of things. Okay, so if you need to clear out your menu cache or your menu link cache or anything like that, you can just hit flush all caches. And what it's going to do is then all your pages are going to hit the database. I have noticed also your process CSS cache that kind of doesn't get hit whenever you do the flush all caches. You have to do that individually. I think in our next version we might pick that up and include that in the flush of all caches as well. Just a little note for 511. But you can flush all caches. You can look at cache stats, see how much memory is being consumed by each cache, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just a little cache manager here, where if you're seeing anything like I was seeing, I thought there was something wrong with my theme, but apparently it was only something with my cache that was not showing me my reorder menus. Maybe I was logged into another older .cms and I didn't clear out my browser cache before I loaded up
this server, so not sure, but now it's showing just fine. But if I would have come to CMS maintenance, maybe I could have just seen the buttons by instantly hitting flush cache. I'm not sure whether it was my browser cache or not. We can delete the menu cache. Our navigation tool uses its own little cache, so you can control menu caches there. Here is the entire index. So if I wanted to reindex all of the .cms content, I could hit reindex and create a new index, and it'll switch over after it's created, only at the very end. And here I can see my live and working. I can right click, I can deactivate an index, download an index snapshot for local work, whatever I wanted to do. I can flush my Elasticsearch cache. You can also reindex. Let's just say you wanted to just reindex a certain content type. You can hit, just our movies. If I was seeing some sort of ghosted, and the only time I've ever needed this is whenever I actually after I did an upgrade. One time, and I was testing for QA. It was an unreleased version of .cms. I saw both an archived and a published version of my content. Obviously, there was an indexation, QA issue. So what I did is, I went ahead and re-indexed just that content type, and it resolved the issue. So I introduced an indexation bug before we released that version, and so there is testing that you can do here to see whether there's indexation issues whenever you see kind of weird ghosted versions of content in your system. Like I said, I've only seen that once on unreleased code in .cms on testing and upgrade. Here under tools, this is kind of a useful tool if and only if, I would say, you have no access to your server. Now, I've got this server running locally on my own .cms. So if I actually wanted to, if I wanted to get, my assets, off of this server, I just go right into, where I've got it installed, and I would, have direct access, and, I would get my assets or whatever I wanted to right here from my local install and download them. I would get my DB dump from Postgres that I've got running locally, etc. But let's just say that you don't have any access at all to the .cms server. You only have backend UI access. Well, you can still download data and assets right here. Now, this backup of your data right here and this backup of data assets is only on the server itself. So if you don't have any server access, that does not help you, right? But the download buttons actually will allow you to download your assets only, or download your DB only, or download your DB and your assets. So you could go ahead and click that. Now, if you've got a really huge set of data in your system, then there might be some restrictions there depending upon what your network allows, but that is where you could set up a local development environment that way. You can do search and replace on all content. And then down here at the bottom, there is a search and replace. There's a delete push here. Old asset versions you can drop. So you can search and replace for a string. Obviously, almost all of these are saying, hey, you need to have a DB backup before you try to search and replace all content throughout the system for one term. Let's just say someone had a name change, a legal name change, and they were mentioned, 1,000 times on your site. I guess you could, find all instances of that, full name or something like that. You could do something like that, but very rare, and you certainly should have a DB backup and maybe test it on a local dev environment before you do something like that. You can fix some asset inconsistencies, and you can drop old asset versions with one single click. So I can drop old asset versions before like April 3rd of 2019. And if I execute that, then what that's going to do is just like for the, here, if we just go to the page, there's a lot of changes I made to this little quest page, so if I go to the properties and you go to the history, then you can see all these old versions of the page that they're neither saved nor they're published. So I could delete all of these lines of, they're only a few kilobytes each in the history. And between histories of changes, if you have the same image used on a content type, whether it's page content or whether it's regular content type, you don't have to worry about it saving for each one of these versions of a piece of content, the image, in this case, 4 times. If the image hasn't changed, then the same image will be referenced between all versions. So it'll, if you had 40 different versions of a piece of content, but then the image had never changed, then you'd only have one image that's referenced by all of those pieces of content in the history, right? So you don't really have to normally worry a lot about this, but if you want to flush out at the end of a year or something like that, all old content older than a year old or something like that, where it's got no saved or no working version, your maintenance portlet could help you do something like that. But just going system and maintenance and saying into the tools section, I want to drop old asset versions as of April 1st of 2018. Give me all those old ones that have no saved or no published version, and just clean them out of the bring back historical view of all content. And that way you still be able to bring back anything up to a year old, but anything older than a year with no saved or no working would be eliminated from that history, right? If you want to delete content and just throw a whole bunch of identifiers, let me show you where those identifiers are. So if you look at that, pork belly futures, if we click history, this is the identifier which identifies the entire piece of content. And then these little inodes identify every change to every piece of content. So every time I make a change, I click save and publish, it's going to give me a new version with a new author and a modification date of whenever they did it. If I push this page, then it's going to give me a push history and where I pushed it to, all of that good stuff. So I can bring back any version. Right now there's only a working version, so there's nothing to bring back underneath it. But you could take those identifiers from that history tab, and here under tools, you could comma separate a complete list and delete a whole bunch of content in bulk, and then you don't have to work through any workflow that's applied to that content type. It's just one click and it's done. The only way to get back those contentlets that have been deleted, though, is by DB backup. So, use caution when using that tool. And the pushed history, we just looked at the history tab on content, and there is a push publishing history. If you want to just clear that out with one click execute so that all of those histories are deleted, and then the next time you push, it'll start over again, you could do that here. Now, I don't have my path configured locally, but I think we do on demo.cms.com. Let's see. And then you should see various logs, push publishing log, the regular log, here, let me see. Open up a new incognito. Okay. And okay, so if here we go to system, we go to maintenance, we go to log files, then here, yeah. We see the .cms. Now you should have there should be more here configured. There should be a push publishing log, a velocity log. Our demo is just set up to just follow the domain .cms.log. And then you can just pop them up here in this log manager, move them to the side, and then view if there's any, if you wanted to view that on one monitor while you make changes and see if you are, whenever you're developing new content, dynamic listings, creating new velocity polls, if you want to track the log and then see if you're making any mistakes, see user logins, whatever you want to do, then you can see that from the system here. System info about your installation, where you have paths for everything, your Java home, everything here tells you about your installation. So maybe you're looking in one area on your server and then you realize by looking here, you're looking in the wrong place. And that's why you're getting an unexpected result, what type of Java you have installed, etc. If you're doing your own server hosting, .cms asks you for a thread dump, you could come here and reload threads and see how, your threads are being consumed. You can get a complete thread dump, copy that, and then paste it somewhere. And you can also see logged in users, who's logged into the current demo.cms.com online. You can see there's several people logged in, including me. And then I could invalidate people other than, me. I'm actually logged in as admin actually right now, but I guess in another server I'm logged in as me, so I can invalidate that. And here's my admin user that I'm logged in at, and then this is everybody else, which I will not log them out. Right? Okay, so I'm going to log out and I'm going to close that. And then I'm going to log back in locally here. All right. So that brings us to our last section, which would be how to add host variables and copy hosts. Okay. User and license manager. Well, let me go back here then. This is actually under configuration. It's not actually under maintenance, but here, let me cover how you can manage your own licensing. So here's basic config for branding. So if you wanted to change your background colors and everything like that here in your local host, you want to change a mail domain, you want to change your logo, you can do all those things. Your language, your default language. And if you wanted to change your license, you can, I believe that our site license allows you to install as many local development and licenses as you wish. So you can create a new development license and then just apply the license right here. Click apply license, add it in, or upload a license if you've downloaded a pack from a license pack or requested one from support. Okay, now we're going to go into site management. Let's just say I wanted to add another site. And this is kind of a good best practice to talk about. Let's just say that I'm going to bring up the example. Let's, I'm the main management organization for tons of different sites that are the same or, relatively the same. Let's say I've got a whole bunch of hospitals, I'm thinking specifically of a client of ours. And so I have this default skeleton hospital that's got some local CSS files, but what I would do if I was in that type of multi-tenant environment and I wanted to add a bunch of sites is this is what I would do first. I would start a blank site. I would call it maybe global and just make that a blank site and save and activate it. Then whatever VTL files that I was going to use, maybe I'll make that lowercase. Whatever files that I wanted to use on every one of the hosts, I would put here, right? So I would go here and say maybe, and specifically for HCA, which is a client of ours, they put things here like VTL, Velocity Template Language. Obviously, this is a site that would never be exposed on the front end, right? And then here they would put things like, new image or file. Choose, and I know I've got some for VTL. Okay, so I was just developing something here for a demo. Okay, so let's just say I'm doing a whole bunch of product listings or something like that. So I can open up my product listing and or a nurse listing or physician listing or whatever it happened to be that I'm going to be using over and over again on multiple different sites. So I wouldn't put that listing on any one of my sites. But inside of the listing, I would be referring to CSS files with a pattern that would be like, you know, present on each of my hosts. So I would do like a path inside of that VTL. I would do like a forward slash, CSS forward slash, some CSS file .scss or SAS or whatever I'm using, right? And then on every one of the hosts that I copied, I would just go in and I would edit that CSS file after I copied it and make it different on each host. But I would never change the product listing because the product listing is going to be used, or the nurse listing, or the physician listing, or the promo listing, or whatever it is. I would be reusing among each one of the hosts. So if I come here to sites, what I would do each time, let's just say this is my skeleton host, and then I would add site, copy an existing site, and that skeleton host is calling the global files, right? And then I would determine what I want to copy, right? Because whenever you copy a specific host, you can say which things do you want to copy from that host. I can go ahead and click next and, clone B, clone A, and save. Okay, so it's clone A. It's copying all of the content from demo.cms.com. Almost done. And that way you can deploy very, 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 very quick new sites. And all you have to do is change the reskin files locally if each one of your sites, like bank branches or hospitals, and you're managing 1,000 different hospitals, or whatever you happen to be creating, that all of the sites are very, very similar except for maybe the CSS on them, right? So you could do something like that. Now if we go to the site browser, now I can switch to any one of those. I can go to Clone A and it's got all the About Us pages, the new page template we did. It copied everything, right? And then I can switch back to my, demo, and this is my local demo, copy of everything. And then if I go to global, then he's just going to have the VTL files I'm using, the stuff that's universal to all my sites. So you can use several different processes like that. Now let's just say, let me go back to demo, that I want new host properties right here. Whenever I right click and I edit this host, I do see the host name. I see aliases. I see where my tags are being stored, which right now I can share tags with other hosts. I can use my own tag storage. Put a little host thumbnail. And let's say I wanted to add something else, maybe a shopping cart key or something for my products. So how do we add a new field for all my hosts? Well, if I just type under content types, I just type host, and I've got this new field here. Or I've got this host content type. Hosts are just another type of content. So I could take this text field and put cart. I'll put shopping cart key, right? Use searchable show and list. Yeah, maybe I would put it unique too. No, no about require. Well, let's just leave it not unique and not required. And now I can come here to my site browser, can edit my host. And now we see shopping cart key at the end. I'm going to put 111-222-333-444-555. Lock for editing and save and publish. Now, what if I want access to all of these keys? How do I do it up in my template or in my theme or wherever I need my shopping cart key or wherever? So I'm going to do a little bit of coding, but not much. And I'll put it right here on a page we're familiar with. So here's my About Us page. I'm just going to delink. I'm not damaging that content in any way. I'm just delinking it to the page. I'm going to put a new widget on the page, and I'm going to say I want just not one of these parameterized widgets, just a simple widget so I can drop code right on a page. So if I want, here's host variables. So after adding that host variable, and you can see if I went to my host content type, I'd be able to see the velocity variables for each one of these. I'll show you that in a second. But I already know that for any host, I can get my host name by doing velocity variable host dot host name. And then I can get maybe my Google Analytics key. I'll do host dot I'm hoping that's right. And then I already know for sure my shopping cart key. Right. And then I should be able to save that on a page. Let's see if I did it right. And it looks like yes. Okay, so there's my host name, my Google Analytics key, and my shopping cart key by host. Now I would be able to use this code on any one of the hosts. So this would be a VTL that would go inside my, an example of anyway, a VTL that would go inside my global. I would be able to parse it from any host, and then it would automatically, as long as those fields were filled out for that host, give me the host name that I'm on, the Google Analytics key for that host, and the shopping cart key for that host, as long as the host actually had those properties filled out, right? They would obviously have to have values here, right? And that's how you can dynamically grab them. Now, where do I get those velocity variables from? If I double click host, the velocity variables right here, host name, aliases, tag storage. So if I wanted to get the value of any one of these fields, it's what's in parentheses and grayed out here to the right whenever you create it. It's usually just a camel cased version of whatever the title is of your field. Google Analytics is right there. Shopping cart key right there. Right. And that does bring us to the end of what I wanted to cover for today at the end of hosts. Are there any questions before we close out this session for today? Okay, well, I will be supplying a recording to everyone of each of these three sessions. And remember, there is a web developer course if you're more interested in the front end web development aspect of the learning how to create new velocity widget polls and everything like that. So this is just a back-end UI overview for the next few days. I hope it was helpful. If you're new to .cms, if you do have any questions, you can always email us at info@.cms.com, and we'll be happy to engage and help you out. My email is Dean, that's DEAN, at gmail.com. I'm sorry, at .cms.com, and dean@.cms.com. So if you ever, need any information or links to documentation or where to get info, feel free to either use info or my personal email. I'd be more than happy to help you out. I hope it was helpful today. We'll go ahead and close out for today's session, and we will pick up tomorrow at the same time using the same GoToWebinar link. I hope it was helpful. Have a great rest of your day.